And I'm going to give it to you real quick. We're going to start in Leviticus chapter 6. And I want to give you something real quick. Leviticus chapter 6, when you have it, say amen. Leviticus chapter 6. Leviticus chapter 6, we're going to start at the 8th verse. If you'll read it for me, please, ma'am.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering because of the burning upon the altar all night until the morning. And the fire of the altar shall be burning in it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and his linen breeches shall be put upon his flesh. Take up the ashes which the fire hath consumed with the burnt offering and on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. And he shall put off his garments and put on the other garments, and carry forth the ashes without the camp unto a clean place. And the fire upon the altar shall be burning in it. It shall not be put out. And the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order upon it. And he shall burn thereon the fat of the peace offerings. The fire shall ever be burning upon the altar, and it shall never go out.
Now, here in Leviticus, we find that God has given Moses the instruction for the burnt offering. For all the offerings that would be offered upon the fire or upon the altar. Whether it's a sin offering or guilt offering, whatever the type may be, we find that he's giving the instructions of how it's to be done. And when you begin to read this, begin to go through and study, you'll find out that God himself lit the fire.
All right, yes.
He didn't trust in anybody else. He set the fire himself. And once the fire was set, he gave instructions on how the priest was to go in and how the sacrifices were to be conducted, how everything was to be conducted. He gave the priest, he said, one of the conditions of this fire, now every morning, now you got to make sure that you put some wood on this fire.
All right.
Yeah. Every morning there's got to be something that you're putting on this fire to ensure that it stays burning until the next day.
All right.
Oh, God. I'm going to take it somewhere, I promise. He said that this wood had to be placed on there by you every day. God said, I'm not going to put it on the fire, but I'm commanding you. So whatever you need to do, if you got to go out and chop it, if you got somebody who's going to deliver it to you, but whatever you need to make sure that this wood is set on this fire every day. He said now, and the last commandment that he gave concerning this, he said, and this fire shall never go out. The last part of verse 12. Verse 13. It said, the fire shall ever be burning upon the altar, and it shall never go out. So just for a topic, just tell your neighbor, say, you can't afford to let the fire go out.
Go out.
That's it.
You cannot afford to allow your fire to go out. I don't care what you go through. I don't care what you come up against. I don't care what people say. I don't care how you feel. You cannot afford to allow your fire to go out. So now, since we understand that God has set this fire, now let's go back to the beginning. We understand that in the beginning God created everything, and there was nothing created except for what he created. When he spoke at the time, or however he decided to create at that time, that's what happened. Now, let's take it back a little bit to the beginning of your Christian walk.
All right, come on. All right.
Now, since God set the fire in Leviticus, now it is the same God that has to set the fire in you.
Right.
So in the book of Romans 10:9, whenever it says, we all know it, we call it the Roman road, how is it that I become saved?
All right.
The Bible tells me if I confess with my mouth and believe in my heart that God has raised Jesus from the dead, then I shall be So then my fire being lit, it all starts at the beginning. So it starts with my confession.
That's right.
If my confession is a lie, then my whole walk is a lie.
Okay.
All right.
Let me go back over there.
That's right.
I'm going to do it like it's a teach preach. Y'all stay with me.
All right.
In order for my fire to be genuine, then my confession has to be genuine.
That's right.
In other words, once I hear that word and once that it pricked my heart, when I come up here, I can no longer be playing.
That's
right.
When I say I desire to be saved, I recognize the sinful state that I am. And I need a Savior in my life that has to be a true confession.
That's right.
I cannot get saved because this is the church where my mom go to, and my uncle go to, and my cousin go to, and this is the place where all my family go to.
That's right.
That's right.
Because then my confession is going to have me in shaky water when things come. I'm going to show you. So then my confession must be genuine. And there's something about when you have a genuine confession. I don't know about you, but when I stopped playing Elder John and I came to the church, I said, God, I just want to be saved. I don't really care, God, where you placed me at the time, but I did not want to continue living the life that I was living. I didn't want to have to be faced with going to hell on a daily.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't want to have to keep being content with that idea. And I can remember when I got serious, Elder Carter, and I came down to the altar, there was something that magnificent had happened to me. Nobody couldn't see it from the outside, but somewhere down on the inside, as I was saying, God, no, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it, God. If you don't want me to do anything, then I'll sit quiet. But there was something, Minister Tremaine, that happened down on the inside, and the people couldn't see it. And then when I went back home, and I would say, you know, I got saved today, and folks said, yeah, whatever.
All right.
You going to come on out to the club with me tonight?
All right.
All right.
Good.
And so nobody could see it, Brother Gabe, but down on the inside, God had took a match and
All right. Yes, sir.
And there was a fire that had started burning down on the inside, even though nobody could see it on the outside. And the more and more that this fire grew, it caused me to go into my refrigerator and get all type of alcoholic beverages out of my refrigerator. It caused me to begin to tell family members that I don't do that over here no more. It caused me to begin to study the Word of God for myself. Nobody could see it, but on the inside there was some heat that was going on.
My God.
On the inside of me. And I couldn't explain it at the time. I didn't know how to put it into words at the time because I did not know enough of the Word to be able to put it into words. And so the more and more that this fire grew, and the more and more that I got up, and the more that I came to the church, and this was the thing right here. I had been raised in church my whole life. So I know how it was to come to church and not pay attention to church and go back home and do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
All right.
But the more and more I came to church and I wrote down what the preacher was saying, and I began to go back home and say, God, how does this apply to my life, God? Is there any of this stuff that's in me that I need to deal with? And then the fire seemed like it began to burn a little more. Thank you. But I was charged on a daily basis in the church where I came up in. They would always say when you first got saved, they didn't want you to read nothing like Psalms and Proverbs and the four Gospels. I don't know why, but that's all we was reading. So I went through Psalms or Psalms as we call some of them, Proverbs and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we began to read that. And in reading that, it began to let me know that I made the right choice.
Oh, yeah.
It began to let me know exactly what Jesus had came and done for me.
All right.
It began to let me know how much in need I was of a Savior. So now we find that now I'm in church, not a preacher saying some stuff, but the vast majority of the church now is when the word go out, you never look at it again until Sunday, or the Sunday that somebody preached on the same scripture that they preached on the last time.
All right.
But we are charged in order to keep this fire burning. I don't care, even down to the babies, even with my kids. If you hear this word, you can be held accountable for it.
Yeah, man.
So now we are charged with keeping this fire from going out.
Yeah.
Now the enemy understands that this is the charge that we have, that this is the obstacle we have. So now he begins to throw little things at you in your life. Little distractions is what I like to call them. But I want to tell you something about a distraction. A distraction cannot make your fire go out. It cannot do it. It always is left up to you.
That's right.
All right, now let's go to Jeremiah real quick. Y'all know where I'm going next. Y'all heard about kids. Jeremiah chapter 20. Yeah, your neighbor said you can't afford to let your fire go out. You just cannot afford to allow your fire to go out. Jeremiah chapter 20, let's start at the 7th verse. Before we read it, let me give you a little. We understand, and we have read and we've understood and heard about the prophet Jeremiah, how he was sent out to preach unto the people of God, not just the Indian nation, but the people of God. And the people of God were so hard-headed, stiff-necked, that they didn't want to hear anything that the man of God was saying. They didn't want to hear anything that the man of God was saying. And we understand that though he was known as a weeping prophet, because it hurt him sometimes, because the word that he would have to come and give was so strong and it was so severe that it hurt him just as much as it hurt you to hear. But he understood that he had to continue on in what God had called him to do. And so now we find him in chapter 20, verse number 7. And listen to what he says.
O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou art stronger than I, and hast prevailed. I am in derision daily.
Now this right here is for us ministers that are calling. Because see, what happened here is that God gave him something. God gave him a word, and the more he preached it, like the people would respond to it.
All right.
He knew that God had called him. He knew that God had sent him. But he said, God, you tricked me. I told these people what you said, and they still didn't do nothing. They still won't listen. They still won't heed what you have told. I told them what you said. God, you tricked me. This is what he's saying. Oh, God. I asked your neighbor, I said, are you one of those tricking saints? Are you one of those saints that say, you know what, I don't care what you say, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care how much word you give me, I ain't going to follow it. And you sit up in the church and try to trick the men and women of God like you following what they say. Don't be one of those tricking saints. In both sense of the word. All right, let's go.
I am in derision daily. Everyone mocketh me.
This is what he says here. Every day he's battling now. Do I even want to go preach again?
That's right. People mark it.
Every time I open my mouth, they call me false.
That's right.
Do I even want to say anything again? Yeah. Because the words you have given me have been so severe, and I haven't seen any of it come to pass as of yet. That's right. I told them if they don't change their ways, they're going to die, and they still live. Right. That's right. This is a discussion that the man of God had with God.
That's right.
So daily now, I'm in division. I don't even know now whether or not I even still want to preach it. And I don't know about you, but across this country, you can look and you can see men and women of God every day that's giving up. That's right. But you cannot afford to allow your fire to go out. Okay?
For since I spake, I cried out, I cried violence and spoil, because the word of the Lord was made a reproach unto me, and a derision daily. Then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name.
Listen what he's saying.
This is the man of God.
This is the man of God. I said to myself, I won't even mention your name no more.
That's right.
I won't even say anything. I don't care if you give me a word, I won't give it to him.
Good God.